Alright, so I'm going to look at the Balance Council results for August 2025. We're going to keep this video short. I hurt myself yesterday, and I have a lot of abdominal pain underneath my rib cage. I was doing leg press, and I was pushing a lot, and something kind of moved out of place, and kind of hurts to breathe deeply, and it kind of hurts to sit up in my chair right now. So, you know, regardless, I'll be alright, and I'm going to be grinding a lot of games this month. We're going to be putting out a ton of deck guides, but I want to get through this video just to kind of set the month proper. You know, it is August 1st. First time in a while that I've done this on, I guess, the patch 24 hours. So let's get into it. If you guys want to follow along, you can click the bell here at the bottom of your game and click the Balance Council voting results here, and we get right to it. I'm going to be very brief with this. Generally, it's long-winded. I'm just kind of fire these off and just kind of give you a few thoughts on each. So, Altibald at 7's good. Manor Thrive is probably where you'll see it played. Maybe it opens up a couple possibilities, but I think that's going to be the main one. It was the only deck that it was really competitive in the past, and I don't mind that change so much. This card hasn't seen play in a very long time. Dettlaff is scary bad. This is going to be dangerous, right? Deathwish is always consistently good. Adding a couple extra points to the leader swing, let alone when you're cloning that with Arrakis Queen. That's 4 extra points you just added by adding 1 here, so I don't love it. Roach Ping Pong goes back to 4. It's not that big of a deal. It's almost a placeholder at this rate. The Reynard buff is good. I think Shin had this on his list. You know, it fits it into Golden Neckar range, makes it a bit more attractive for those type of decks, but also, you know, just a solid Knights deck. It's been a while since I've seen Knights played often on the ladder, so I'm for this change. Vivian is actually pretty cool. Aristocrat tag, so it plays into that archetype pretty well. The card hasn't seen much play because there's just been better ways to remove stuff, but a lot of boosty stuff going around right now with low provisions. They're just putting a big boost onto something that doesn't cost a whole lot, or you have tokens with big base bodies, so she's going to get value. That just helps, you know, increase the floor a little bit, so I like that change. Same with Swears. It's cool to see NG support that's just not your typical, right? We're going to this right after, but a little Swears support never hurt anybody, right? We came a long way. This used to be 3. It's got 2 buffs in Sunset. It's now looking a lot more attractive. I think it used to be 8 provisions as well. So the power creep was really setting in for this card. Now I think it's actually worth playing, especially in an enslaved deck where you can ping things down. It's like an amnesty with a body, so I think that's really cool. Nausicaa, ping pong again. I'm not really against it this time, you know. If we have to do something, I guess, fine. But there's always going to be better cards you could pick for this sort of thing. I didn't see a lot of Assimilate lately, so I guess we'll allow it. But, you know, we're cloning this card, but we're also going to be cloning this card. There's going to be a lot of Self-Eaters. And Self-Eater buff is a very scary one. I don't like this at all. If it was a 6-6, I think I'd be okay with it. But a 6-5 is really concerning. There's a lot of just exploitive things you could do with this, whether you let this one grow, whether you just split them and go wide. It's a bit more defensive before the click. Again, it brings the power up of the click to 3 instead of 2. It's bad. So there's just, you know, it's tough. We have Cursed Knight. Again, increases the floor. It was a 6, now it's a 7. I like this for the Devotion Cursed and our archetype. I think that would be pretty interesting. Giving a bit more points to Ada is always a good thing. I like King Cobra. This sort of ties into what I was talking about with the monsters poison archetype, right? I guess you could put this in just about any deck where you're trying to do some kind of poison bundle, but generally speaking, monsters, Syndicate, or Northern Nilfgaard, Nilfgaard, not Northern Realms. But, you know, those 3 would be the big main ones. Probably more monsters because the other factions have better ways to poison, so there's that. Power decrease, Renfri gets hit again. Again, I think at this point we could just leave her alone. Riordan, I don't mind that. Pretty oppressive card. I think we can just leave him alone at this point. Ivar gets an indirect buff because we're swapping power before the Adrenaline. You're not playing this card for the Adrenaline effect under any circumstance. It would be a waste. So, you know, just giving an extra point of reach there is a clever nerf, right? It works in favor. The The Olaf is basically reverted from last month, and I think that's, you know, unfortunate. The Olaf him play was pretty interesting. You know, this makes it a little bit worse. At least the card's still in Golden Echo range. It'll probably still see play. You know, it wasn't OP, but it was annoying. Just the quick swing you had with it. The extra point did help. Riptide, 9 for 9. I kind of want it to stay there at this point. I'm just kind of tired of seeing this one ping pong just like this one. Dire Bear. Again, I know you guys don't really like this either. I don't like this that much myself. When Berserk is basically already done by Balance Council. So basically nothing on the opposite row can be boosted just on deploy. Like, you just put the card down, and that could be a hard tech to some of the other stuff that's coming up later on. But again, this will probably get reverted at some point. Alzur, along with the Whisperers, get a nerf, right? So Alzur's getting down to 5 instead of 6. It's a little harsh for him, but this card does get pretty crazy if left unchecked. This is going to hurt for Northern Realms mages. It's not going to make much of a difference for the Qcento, because you're basically pulling him off Oniro half the time or whatever you're doing. So it doesn't really matter. Maybe a tactical, you know. He's getting the fires right away. So we have Ruin coming down at 4. It used to be 5. 5 was too strong. Same thing applies with the Sentry and Spellweaver. A little bit too strong at 5, right? The fact that you can clone them was just kind of getting crazy, so we have that. We have Cleaver's Muscle getting the revert as well, which is exactly what we needed. So a couple of our votes here went through so far. And some support kind of along the idea that I had. Just a different card went through on this front, so I'm pretty happy with these at least few to start with. Riptide was kind of one of my honorable mentions, but either way, that's okay. Rage of the Sea getting a provision increase, a bit of a buff. Again, we don't see a whole lot of Rage of the Sea right now, so I guess a bit more opportunities. We'll see how it goes. I know the Renfri Beast deck did get a bit of a nerf when they increased the cost of a couple things, so this will help out a little bit. King Crumb gets a nerf to 15. You're probably reconsidering playing this card almost, you know, for more control options instead, because he gets purified or heat waved anyways a lot of the time. But you might still play him, right? It's one of those answer this or lose kind of things in a lot of cases, so you might still play him. Tainted Ale is just one of those picks to prevent an exploitive play with, you know, Onslaught leader ability, so this just gets to eat that because no one likes playing the card anyways. Morvid provision increase makes sense. It shouldn't have been 12. I don't think Cleaver had to get nerfed because the muscle already got nerfed, so the double nerf doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Unfortunately, this is kind of dumb. This will probably get reverted at some point. Blue Dream is a provision increase, which I wasn't expecting because I haven't seen this card played on the ladder once all month. But okay, if I'm missing something, let me know. Maybe the top 64 pro had something they were going up against, but no net decks, nothing I've seen had this card being played in a way that was scary. Whisperer Dolbothana gets a nerf to 7 provision. It's kind of steep, honestly. I could see why in Alzur decks you'd kind of want to nerf that, but I think I would rather go 3-6 instead of 4-7, honestly, and kind of make that the objective, but it's not very good. We voted for Redanian Secret Service along with Shin to get a nerf to 7 provision. It is what it is. It's just 2 free thins with a Purify attached to them, so it shuts down 2 engines right away, makes their provisions worth half as much just because the util, right? So it's, yeah, it pretty much guarantees rounds. If they're trying to lock something that swings out, we just keep going. It's a slow play for them, and we can just keep plowing through. So, you know, we have that. Open Sesame, yeah, this card gets out of hand sometimes, so okay. It goes up to 6 for now. It's not going to ruin the faction, but it hurts a little bit to crime decks and stuff like that. The Seagull provision increase to 6 went through. The power did not. So we avoided that by kind of counter voting. We were able to get around, you know, having Seagull at 2-5, which was, that would have been very concerning, right? We've seen it at 2-4, 2-5 would have been nearly as bad. So we just, we'll deal with that. This will probably get reverted at some point, but at least it's a spot that's not taken from something else. I probably would not include this in your Pirates deck this month. I think it wouldn't be worth it at 1-6, unfortunately, but you might, but I just don't think it's great. Provision decrease for going to Temple. It was 17, now it's 16. 16's not terrible, but it is still very good. I think you could have probably left it at 17 and kept most people happy. I hope it doesn't go down to 15. I think 16's a really good place to leave it for a while and see how it goes. Provision decrease. Erlin gets -1. That's good for NR Witchers. It's also good for Archgriffin. So if this gets a buff and this gets a buff, then Archgriffin becomes a little bit more attractive, because the way that I play it, I find is really quick. You just pull Archgriffin off of Temple, you start boosting it behind a defender, you Erland in around 2 and try to 2-0. And it's been somewhat successful. So seeing 2 supports to that is pretty cool. Totem at 9 is Golden Necker range, which is crazy good, which is insane. You're probably going to see a lot of Golden Necker self-wound this month, right? Direct support here and here to it. So people just love playing this. I mean, I do too. But I'm probably going to have to do something like that. We have Hemdall going down to 9 provision, which puts it in Golden Necker range. If Hemdall's not played now, I'm going to be damn surprised. I think it has a lot of potential in Dagger decks. And now you can do Dagger with Golden Necker with Hemdall. I thought he was fairly good at 10. Some people still complain about it. But at 9, this feels like something you just want to play. Again, Patricide of Fury, you make sure you fill that row. You're onto something. I think it's going to be very good. Avalak here is probably going to be a good support to Rain, right? Because you could do Golden Necker Rain with Avalak now, which is kind of scary as well. Being able to get Torrential Rain here, plus the body for it, plus the procs off the messengers, you can imagine it's going to look crazy. We have Free Company going into Golden Necker range as well. There's a lot of things going into Golden Necker range. Obviously, bonded stuff is kind of universal. Every faction has its type of bonded decks that do better than others, but, you know, being able to play a little bit more of that doesn't hurt. I find they get kind of boring, but there are, you know, a couple ones that are sort of fun, so this is a little bit of support for that. We have Roach. This is probably the most concerning one, honestly. This is a Priestess deck support directly, so it gives that deck another provision. Seeing Skags go down to 7's a buff to hand buff decks, which I think could use a buff, so I'm not really opposed to that either. The Brain, which is something that we voted for, gets to go through for 5-5. I think it's okay. Honestly, 5-8 for 5 is okay because of the pings you could set up for like a Shiru deck or something like that. But other than that, the card's not that great. It does get 2 boosts though if you're playing it in a Harmony deck off a scenario, but again, this card's where it should be. It'll probably just stay there. I think 5-4 would be too strong. So 5-5 is good. And Sly Seductress is ridiculously stupid at 4 provisions. I think this is arguably worse than this, because of the clonability with this card. The fact that it comes down at 5 is already bad, because it used to come down at 4, I believe, and now it's 4 provision instead of 5. So it's seen a lot of buffs over the time, and you can just, again, spam the crap out of it, and Hidden Cash looks like it's going to be somewhat competitive this month. So all in all, we have a couple things that support archetypes that don't have enough love, like NR Witchers, maybe Archgriffin, Rain for Skellige, Golden Necker variants as well, hand buff. We've seen nerfs to things like monsters, mid-range control, and Ogoroids. We've seen nerfs to just Renfri spam and Alzur mages and Alzur orbs spam. You know, this sort of thing as well. Mid-range, just high tempo Golden Necker Northern Realms decks as well. You know, all in all, the patch is okay. I think there are just too many things now that are in a scary good territory that are going to be challenges. But what I do like about it is that they're split enough by factions that at least there's still a lot of playable factions, right? You have Nilfgaard Assimilate, which is going to be their best deck. You have, you know, Death Wish, which is going to be a big hitter for monsters. You have Hidden Cache, that's going to be a big hit for a Syndicate. You know, Temple's back in the mix, so Northern Realms will probably go like a Devotion Temple Siege. So there's, you know, stuff. Rain, Skellige. So, I mean, there's something here for everyone. It's not the best patch. It's certainly not the worst patch. I'm still going to play a ton this month. What do you guys think of the patch? Let me know in the comments below. And let me know what decks you want to see first. I kind of have an idea of a couple that I'm going to be trying soon, but love to hear it from you guys. Until next one, I'll see you soon, and yeah.